Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Brilliance on the Spectrum with your host, Robin Williams. Today's guest is the legendary Temple Grandin.
All right. Hello and welcome to the first edition of Brilliance on the Spectrum. I'm Robin Williams, and I'm so excited and pleased to announce my first interview with Temple Grandin. Woo!
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
We are so happy to have you here, Temple. And I just have to tell you, thank you so much, because when I first met you, it was in Ventura County. We were at a hotel. You were doing a speaking engagement, and I was in Ferry, and I had gifted you my books. And you said, well, what else do you do besides this Ferry thing? And I said, well, I love to write. I wrote those books when I was little, and I'm still writing, and I love to interview.
Okay, well, great.
And you said, do not quit your day job.
Well, I think
and you know what?
Yeah.
I didn't. And now I'm here. Finally, after all this time, we have our podcast, Brilliance on the Spectrum. You inspired me to never give up. So thank you very much, darling.
Well,
now let's get on with some of your questions here, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so tell us your title and who you are, first of all.
Well, I am professor of animal science at Colorado State University. I will have been here for 32 years, coming up in March.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Okay,
really?
I just lost her. Okay, there she is. I lost her.
Yeah, okay.
There you are. Okay.
What's happening? I'm seeing everything just fine.
Now it's all we're just working out our little bugs. Okay, so would you tell us a little bit about your animal husbandry background? What inspired you to go into that field?
Well, I came from the East Coast, and there was no cattle in my life until I was a teenager. So that brings up a really important thing about careers. Students get interested in stuff they get exposed to. So I got exposed to cattle as a teenager, went out to my aunt's ranch in Arizona. Also, the special school I was at had a 12-cow dairy, and I learned how to milk cows there. And then my other big passion was horses. And I was bullied and teased a lot, and horses was one of the few places where I learned how to work, have friends. Like, you might be interested in a paper that's on open access. It's how horses helped a teenager with autism make friends and learn how to work. And you can
that's awesome.
look that up online. It's on the scientific databases.
Right. Now I understand that when you're speaking at your engagements, you basically are addressing parents of kids with autism.
Yes, I'm addressing parents. And then, well, in some cases, I was at a meeting in Des Moines, had a very good discussion with a number of autistic adults of varying ages.
Oh, my
parents,
goodness.
teachers, I always like to know when I'm doing a talk who the main audience is, so I can kind of, it's good to know.
Right, so you know what your message is.
Parents with 3-year-olds, where early intervention is the important thing. Older kids, then I would spend less time talking about early intervention if the audience was mostly older kids.
Now, what is your main message that you always give to every audience?
Well, develop the child's strengths. Take the thing they're good at and build on it. I was very good at art, and when I was 7 years old, my mother always encouraged my ability in art, and I would just draw the same horse head over and over and over again. And mother would say, well, draw the entire horse. Take that thing that the kid gets fixated on and broaden it. That's what you want to do.
So focus on their natural abilities.
Yeah, and in my new book, Visual Thinking, one thing I talk about in my new book is how people on the autism spectrum often have kind of extreme versions of skills. I'm a visual thinker, object visualizer. Another autistic kid might be a mathematician, and somebody else is a word thinker. And a lot of individuals are mixtures of different kinds of thinking, but I'm an extreme object visualizer. So the kinds of things that my kind of mind tends to be good at, mechanical things, mechanics, art, photography, and animals, because animals don't think in words. Their memories and sensations, everything's sensory based.
Okay, now, besides writing your books that teach us all about how to live, educate, and thrive on the spectrum, what else is it that you're doing these days when it comes to your career?
Well, I'm still teaching my class in livestock handling. I still have graduate students. In fact, today we had a committee meeting on one of my graduate students, and she's been studying mother cow behavior out on the pasture.
So you're
And
actually in the class still?
oh yeah, I'm still teaching my
Oh,
class.
wow, I wasn't sure that you were still
In fact,
teaching.
now they've got a new thing that we have to put all our resumes on, this thing called Tilt. And one of the things I was asked was, what other things can they learn in my class besides how to handle cattle and behavior of animals and designing facilities? And I said, well, one of the things I teach in my class is the importance of observation. Just observation, observe what the animals are doing. Now that's easy for somebody who's an object visualizer. I also have them draw a scale drawing. And I have some students that say, well, I'll never design a corral. Why should I need to do a scale drawing? Well, if you ever build a house or remodel a house, it might be a good idea to know how to do a scale drawing. But I think the assignment I have in my class that's going to be the most important, now we've got all this AI stuff, is my database searching project. There's about a third of students who don't know that scientific databases exist. So I let them pick out a subject in anything in animal behavior, like, is it true that birds have a magnetic sense? And then they've got to give me 2 articles off of Google Scholar, off of PubMed, off of Web of Science, and off of Science Direct, and make them surf these databases. And I think this is really important skill to learn, because now we're going to have artificial intelligence, and I can't believe some of the things that program has said.
You would be amazed how many times I've been getting requests for articles, and they're telling me to actually use the GPT, and I kind of feel like it's cheating. How do you feel about that, by the way?
Well, my students have to make an abstract or a summary of the articles. I'm not going to say I think it's wonderful if they use ChatGPT, but the thing that I'm the most want them to learn from this is how to go to primary source information and find primary sources for things. And since it's an academic class, I want them looking at academic scientific articles. And I think students need to be taught that they got to go back to primary sources. And I'm going to be really stressing that now.
Okay.
I'm not saying I think it's good that they might do the abstract with ChatGPT, but I'm less concerned about that than the teaching them to go to primary sources. Like I was taught this when I was in college. You know, like go back to a major newspaper that wrote something. Okay, sure. Get into subjects that get really politically hot, and I'm not discussing any of that stuff. But let's say you read something really wild on social media, it'd be a very good idea to get on regular Google and go back to primary sources. And be a skeptic about a lot of stuff. Like right now, as a senior, I can't believe the scam text messages I'm getting. My PayPal account has been compromised. I don't even have a PayPal account. Some other account is compromised.
Right.
And then they want you to give them all this information. Well, I don't do a lot of stuff online because my default setting is it's a scam unless
definitely.
Period.
Now, Temple, you've been honored and admitted to the National Women's Hall of Fame for having revolutionized the study of autism. And now that was in 2017. Now, if there were anyone that deserves such an award that you know in this current generation, who would that be?
In the autism field? Well, that's something where I actually would need to spend some time online looking.
Okay.
For somebody, especially a young person. Now, I can talk about the history. Bernard Rimland, one of the founders of the Autism Society of America, Ruth Sullivan. These were some of the people that got me started. They were people that, one of the things that Bernard Rimland did is back when I was a child, they still believed in like psychological causes for autism, which is absolute rubbish.
Agreed.
And Bernard Rimland was one of the first people to say that's simply not true. So he would probably, when I was in my 20s, I I'd visited with Bernard Rimland, and you see things have changed a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the world, so your TED Talk, The World Needs All Kinds of Minds, is still extremely relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you get, now wait, how do you get that message out in the world that has such mixed messaging filling the minds of youth today? How do you get that message out?
Well, I figure now I'm in my 70s now. So what kind of messages do I want to get out? I have a story I can tell to educators about stuff they don't know. I was in heavy construction for 25 years, working on supervising installation of equipment I had designed. And of course, the building is a big factory. And of course, I walked around the whole entire project. And I worked with people that designed equipment for me, did drawing. Somebody labeled drafting technician, maybe had a 1-semester class in computer drawing, was laying out entire factories. Another person working in the shop was inventing mechanical equipment. I had people building things for me and helping me invent stuff. And I'm going to estimate that about 20% of those skilled people in the shop or the drafting technicians were either autistic, dyslexic, or ADHD, undiagnosed. And I have to be very vague about the equipment they make because they're not disclosed. But I know one person who's in late 60s right now. He was flunking out of school, terrible student, every label in the book, took a single welding class. He is now selling specialized hydraulic equipment around the world. I have to just leave it kind of vague. I can't say exactly what he makes, but
that's amazing.
This is where kids today get an autism label, and too many parents baby their kids, and they're not learning stuff like shopping. I wish I didn't have to talk about shopping.
Right. I was doing the coaching and that's what they were giving me. And I said, hey, don't we have anything we can give them that's a little more challenging? And they said the parents won't let us. So what do you do? Let me ask you that question, Temple. What do you do when you give these parents this great, advice and this knowledge that works and they don't want to follow it?
Well, I'm kind of, I come out of the construction industry, and I had people that got kind of harsh with me, like when I had hygiene issues. There's a scene in the HBO movie where the deodorant gets slammed down.
Oh my gosh, I was going to ask you.
That scene is true. That scene is true.
Okay, tell
them. And the secretaries took me shopping. That's also true.
Okay, wait. Let's back up, Temple. Tell the audience what actually happened.
Well, I didn't have the best hygiene, and my boss walked in and slammed the deodorant on the table and said, "You stink." And I had to clean it up. And I realized if I wanted to keep a job, I had to clean it up.
Wow. So he kind of did you a favor.
He did me a big favor. Yeah, I was upset at the time.
Sure.
But he did me a big favor. And back in the 70s, the deodorants are really gunky and awful. It's horrible, gunky roll-ons.
Right. I remember.
Oh, they were awful. And now, these sticks they have now, you can't even feel them. So.
Well, you stink pretty then, right?
Yeah, okay. That's right. But I worked with people that were probably on the spectrum, and they owned shops. I know a person, a man that has a gigantic food factory that he invented, and he started out washing food processing equipment, and then he started fixing it. Then he started building it. Just working into a very gradual. There's all kinds of back doors into jobs. And you might say, well, this is old-fashioned stuff. Well, let's talk about things happening right now where people have gotten into back doors into jobs. Like, I would have horrible problems today passing algebra. I don't understand abstract math. That's something that I do not understand. And
so as a scientist,
if I couldn't graduate from high school today, what would I do? I'd go get a laborer job in a factory I thought was interesting. Let me tell you about 2 back doors. One went to work at a fiberglass tank company as a laborer and ended up on fixing every piece of machinery in that factory. And another person worked as just polishing marble in these places that cut these big marble slabs. Then he learned how to use the saws. And then he asked the owner if he could get the little marble scraps out of the dumpster, and he made them into beautiful chess tables. Then he learned how to repair equipment, and now he's flying around the whole U.S. fixing marble cutting equipment.
Oh my goodness.
These are now. This is not stuff from my generation. This is now. Young people right now have done this.
That's wonderful. So, okay, so as one of the most influential people in the world, yet there is a new generation that doesn't know you. I mean, I walk down the street and I meet people and I'm so excited. I'm talking about my interview coming up and they're like, who's that? Now, if I talk to people typically in their late 30s, 40s, they'll remember your movie.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
we need to make sure that they do a remake of your movie. And I want to know, who would you have play you if you get to pick the cast?
Well, I don't know. When I heard that Claire Danes was going to play me, I remember looking her up online. I go, wait, with blonde hair. But she became me. They stuffed her blonde hair up under a wig, and she became me. And
Yes.
she practiced, and I gave her all these ancient old VHS tapes, which they put on DVDs for her, so she could just play them over and again. And she had a movement coach and a speech coach, and she became me. And
Yeah.
I remember driving over to the university, listening to NPR, and they were interviewing me, but also parts of the movie were being played, and I had a difficult time telling them apart.
So do you think Claire Danes could play you as an older woman now?
You know, I don't know
think
if
she
she'd
could,
do that
right?
or not, but she's a very,
So
very good actress,
how did that
and
whole,
she's spent hours becoming me.
yeah. Now, how did that come about? Who came up to you and said, we want to make a movie about you, Temple?
Well, I can tell you exactly what happened. There's a lady named Emily Gerson Sains, and she owns an acting agency in New York. She's the mother of an autistic man that's nonverbal, more challenged. And she came to me about doing the movie. And it took her 10 years to put it together and get the right team. And the right team was Claire Danes playing me, Mick Jackson, the director, and Christopher Munger, the writer. And she wanted it to be really good. And when you get the right team together, things really work. I found that in construction too, because I had projects in construction that went from absolutely wonderful, the most awful stuff going on. Plant manager had a swear word vocabulary. That's all he had for vocabulary. And so I've seen that you get the right team together on any kind of a project, then you can get good things happening. But today I'm seeing too many kids just getting locked into their label. And then I go out I see some of this specialized hydraulic equipment.
Sure.
And when I see that, I'm going, somebody who was autistic and dyslexic that was flunking out of high school made that and sells it around the world.
That's the example you can show.
That is something that educators just don't get it.
Right.
Just
Now,
don't get it.
let me ask you something, Temple. Do you remember when you created the squeeze machine and you did the test in college?
Yep. Yes. And
Why
there's
don't you
actually
tell-
a journal
why don't you
article
tell us-
published about that.
Why don't you tell us why you absolutely did that?
Well, the reason why I made the squeeze machine originally is I had tremendous anxiety, and I found that the pressure helped to calm me down. And a lot of people thought, well, that's just ridiculous. That couldn't possibly work. So I did an undergraduate honors thesis, and I did a little test where I got college students in the squeeze machine, rated them on how relaxing it was. And there's actually a paper published on it now.
Wow. I have a feeling that you probably are the first person that came around to help get them to make those weighted blankets.
Well, I think I actually looked up a whole bunch of patents on things like weighted blankets, and I found that I'm referenced in a lot of them.
Oh, I saw that as well.
And another thing I'm referenced on is Thunder Shirt for dogs,
Oh my gosh, explain that.
and a pressure garment for dogs. Now, where that really works, and there's a lady named Camille King. She's a really good dog behavior specialist, and I helped them study some, but she did all the work. And she looked to see if Thunder Shirts would help with separation distress in dogs.
Right.
When you leave a dog by itself with a Thunder Shirt on, the heart rate goes down and it spends less time watching the door, waiting for somebody to come back.
Oh my goodness. So I'm looking to see, I have a question. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. Temple, are you ever going to retire?
I wouldn't know what to do with myself. I am getting older,
Right.
And I got a nail in a tire in my car, and I had to ask someone. I'm not strong enough now to pick up the heavy tire.
Oh,
And I've
so
got
you
back problems now, and I'm just not, I got
used to
somebody to
change your
help
own
me.
tire?
What?
You used
Oh,
to
in the
change your
past,
own
I
tire?
changed tires. Oh, yes, absolutely. But
Oh
one
my
thing
goodness.
about, I'm in mid-70s now, and I'm starting to get some back problems, and I don't,
So now you got to
if I
get,
do
now you
something
gotta
like
get it.
pick up a super heavy tire, I'm gonna, mess up my back and not able to travel. I'm just not gonna do that.
So
And
speaking of travel, have you taken any vacations lately? Because
well, you know what I just got?
kind
United Airlines. I need to have this as one of my Zoom props. I have a little plastic lucite cube with a card in it. And I've
Right.
made 3 million miles on United Airlines. And I just got that like 2 days ago. It's like a
Oh
little
my
trophy.
goodness.
It's a little trophy that I have flown 3 million miles on United Airlines.
You've thrown 3 million miles on United Airlines.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. I think we just got a scoop, guys. 3 million miles. Now,
Well, I actually have this little trophy now.
well,
that
are
they
you
sent me
going to
that
use
shows that I have flown 3 million miles on United Airlines.
because you fly so much, do you ever actually fly for vacation?
Well, I'll tell you about some of my cool trips. I had a chance to go to NASA Cape Kennedy and Jet Propulsion Center. Oh, Cape Kennedy is wonderful. I got to watch a SpaceX launch. That was so cool. I got to sit in the launch director's chair. That was really,
Oh my goodness.
really super cool. I
How
went
exciting.
inside the vehicle assembly building. This was really, really good stuff.
Oh, wow. That sounds really amazing. Now, Temple, why don't you tell me what's in store for your future?
Well, I think right now I want to get the kids that are different, get out and get into satisfying lives. And I'm especially concerned about us object visualizers because they're putting more and more math into the schools. And I had to be tutored in every single math class and I barely got through them. And we need object visualizers because we're good at things like, mechanical stuff. I mean,
Right.
like right now, let's look at elevator repair people,
Okay.
escalator repair people. Next time you see an elevator being fixed, check up the people out. They're getting older. Also, I have been on a lot of questionable elevators that have not been serviced. And for my kind of mind, that's a perfect job and they make really good money.
Do you encourage parents to allow kids to take things apart that are mechanical?
Well, I don't, they can take things apart. I want to.
So I had a teacher that would bring in old lawnmowers and certain things and have the kids, that were mechanical, take them apart and then learn to put them back together.
And put them back together. That's the important thing.
Exactly. So they take them apart, put them back together. And if they didn't get it right, then he'd say, okay, we're just going to do it again. And then you knew you got it right because then the lawnmower would work.
Well, that's right. And you see, and the visual thinkers like me, art and mechanics go together. And then your mathematical kids, math and music go together.
Right.
Now, one of the mistakes I see a lot of teachers making, kids that are very gifted in math do, is show their work.
Right.
So these kids need to be, they just do it. And some of these kids that just can do that math in their head, they need to be given more advanced math books. They need to be just moved ahead.
I understand that. Math was my biggest challenge. It was the only subject that I couldn't master in school.
Yeah.
Literally. It was very difficult. And they didn't even, acknowledge it. They just kind of pushed me through because they wanted me to get out of school. Oh, here. Someone has a question for you. Go ahead, listener. Who has a question?
I do.
Oh, okay. What's your question, Cam?
Hey, Temple, I have a question for you. I was thinking you can sell your books, not online, but you can do that. But I was thinking you can sell it on Barnes and Noble.
And Barnes and Noble has my books and Amazon has got them.
Okay, I was thinking Barnes and Noble has them too, because
I have them.
Has them. Sign it for yourself.
Thanks, Cami. I appreciate that. Yep. Does anybody else have any questions for Temple tonight? Hello. Oh, here we got one. We've got another one. Go ahead, Nancy.
Has your life changed since the movie came out?
It got a whole lot busier. That's what happened to my life when the movie came out. Much busier. and I get a lot of attention. I have people ask me, how do you like all this attention? I go, it's responsibility.
That's true, right? It is a big
Yeah.
responsibility.
It's a responsibility.
Well, I'm telling you, we're going to have to get Claire Danes to make a remake because I want this new generation to see the
Well,
magic.
I think they can also just get them to see the old one. And one of the reasons I did this book right here is I'm getting very concerned about skill loss. There's a lot of specialized mechanical equipment that's no longer made in the US, things like poultry processing equipment, state-of-the-art electronic chip making machine
Right.
made in Holland. And we're paying the price for taking shop classes out. A big
Now,
difference.
Now, what about the fact that we've got all of these other trades like plumbing and electrical?
Well, those two.
Yeah. I mean,
And-
you can't, what I'm learning from a lot of the old guys is they can't get any young interns or any young guys. And a lot of the schools, instead of you paying to go to the schools now, the schools are offering to pay you to come.
Well, they when they were building our new buildings on campus, new animal science building, new chemistry building, I talked to both of the project managers and they told me they were having a terrible time getting electricians. And I think one of the electricians on one of those projects was autistic, because I went and I looked at the drawings for the electrical stuff in the building, and he'd done all this elaborate color coding of the wiring
Right.
on the drawings. And he, they want everybody to look at iPads with the drawings. Now he wanted big paper drawings that he could mark up and color code them.
Sure, because that was the way he did it.
Yeah, and I worked with all kinds of people that probably were on the autism spectrum. And I was just over at one of our big beef plants, and they had a new classroom. They had to kind of put it upstairs in the plant where they're teaching welding, teaching electrical stuff, hydraulic stuff,
Right.
because they can't find anybody to fix things. So that's really good. And I want to, commend the plant for doing that. So they're training people to fix things. But the thing that we've really lost is people, the building of the equipment. Because what's happened is, 25 years ago, these companies had big in-house engineering departments with lots
Right.
of undiagnosed autistic people in them.
That's right.
Then they shut that down, and for 20 years, they could farm that work out the local shops and it made money. But then as those local shops retired out,
Right.
the shop that is left is price gouging like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
I'm
it's
sure.
terrible.
Now, listen, Temple, I just want to get kind of circle back to when you and I were on the phone, we were talking about, like, you had made a comment, the kids today.
Well,
What is it?
kids today are not doing any hands-on things. That's why I came out with this little book right here, Calling All Minds. And it's projects for kids to make. And when I was a young child, I spent hours tinkering with little parachutes made from scarves, tinkering with little bird kites.
Sure.
And kids don't tinker today. I spent hours trying to perfect my bird kite, putting different amounts of tape on the wings to weight it and stiffen it.
Right.
And
Right.
kids don't do those sort of things. I had a
Right.
girl in my class 2 years ago who had never used a ruler or a tape measure to measure anything.
Yeah, I have to tell you that trying to get kids to do kind of projects, they always want to go behind the computer. But I noticed that when I bust out the art supplies or I bust
Yeah.
out the colored paints and they see them, they start to turn off their pads and they start to get excited. So there is hope.
Well, definitely. I went to a makerspace thing. There was, it might have been 7 or 8 years ago, and they had all kinds of electronic stuff there. But you know what the big hit was? Washing machine boxes that the kids cut up and made things with. And you can take a hacksaw blade and
Right.
tape one end, tape it up really, really good. And you can make a little saw that a kid can cut that heavy cardboard safely.
Right.
And
Well,
that
they
was
make
the most popular thing.
Well, we used to take the refrigerator box and we'd make a TV, kind of stand up in it and put our face
Yeah.
through and pretend I was I Love Lucy with Vita Beach Vegemin.
You ever pretend you were a newscaster?
Oh my gosh. I had so much fun trying to pretend I was somebody, So Temple, I have to tell you, I'm so honored that you took my interview. Thank you for encouraging us. Thank you for encouraging us all. Keep writing your books. Your books are wonderful. I've read six of your books, And
Okay.
but I haven't seen the new one, so I'm
Well, this is
excited
the
to
new one,
check this
visual
out.
thinking, the hidden gifts of people who think in pictures, patterns, and abstractions.
I
And
love
that
it.
was my big COVID project when everything was locked down.
And then the other one, can you show us the other one again? Because I love
Now
that too.
that's the calling all minds. That's children's projects.
That is perfect. I think I'm going to get that for my nieces and nephews.
No, it's a great book for elementary school
is.
kids.
And I just have to say, I always have a saying. I say, shine brightly so others may have a lighted path. And lady, you're on fire.
Okay, well, that's great. And we got to get these kids out doing things, because what I've been seeing is we're doing a much better job with early intervention, working with the little ones. But where we're having a problem is making that transition to the world of work.
That's right.
And one of the things that you want to do is have a gradual transition. And I had that. Chores when I was a kid, 13, mother found me a little sewing job with a lady that did seamstress at work. And I was cleaning horse stalls as a teenager. You don't want to have the kid graduate from high school and bam.
And
you
not
have
know how to
that
do
work
anything.
experience. And some of these kids, when they get out and they get the right job, parents will say, well, he blossomed or they bloomed. They just,
That's
really
right.
did well. And I see a lot of parents having a hard time letting go on things like the shopping.
Right. Well, it's really important. We want to make sure that kids with whatever disability, whatever thing they have, that they can become independent eventually.
Well, that's right.
Be around forever.
And
And so it's really important that we show that the children have the ability to do things and not.
let me tell you something I did. I was at the airport. This was like, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And a mom and her 12-year-old daughter came up to me. We both were on the same flight. And the 12-year-old wanted to get a picture, fully verbal. And I asked, have you ever gone shopping? And I pulled a $5 bill out of my wallet. And I said, go in that store across the hall and buy something. And she went over there and got a drink and brought me back the change. And it's the first time she had shopped.
Oh my gosh.
Now, the store was right there across the
Right.
hall.
Right.
We could see it.
Sure.
You start out in those kind of situations.
Sure. Baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps, but you have to take those baby steps. And let me just warn about a few other things. I cannot remember long strings of verbal information where somebody tells me, do this, do that, do this. Let the kid make a pilot's checklist. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. It's kind of an external working memory.
Okay.
And
So
that's a
everything
very,
is
very
all by
simple
step.
accommodation. And if I was using, here's an example. Let's say I had to be a gate agent at the airport. And I've
Okay.
got to learn, I'm not just talking about the computer part of it right now. And if somebody just goes boom, 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 and shows me the keystrokes, I can't remember that. I
Okay.
would have to have somebody go there when it's not busy and have somebody just, okay, now here are the keystrokes for gate checking a bag.
Okay.
And then I'd write them down. Here's the keystrokes for printing a boarding pass. And I would write down the keystrokes.
Okay.
And then at home, I would practice them. But that's what I would have to do.
Right.
And even something as simple as, closing out the cash register at Walmart. In the beginning, I would have to write that down.
Right.
And if somebody just goes boom, 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 like that, I can't follow that.
So steps.
Yeah, but I need to write them down.
So have them written
Kind of
down.
an external working memory.
Okay. That sounds good.
Because working memory, see, all they talk about is executive function stuff. But
Right.
working memory is one of the problem areas. The other
right.
thing is people talk too fast. Some individuals might need sensory breaks. But this thing with the checklist is really, really important.
Okay. Okay. So
And
is there
some
any?
people can learn it just watching somebody do the keystrokes. But I have difficulty remembering the sequence. And then I'd go home and practice it until the point where I could memorize the pattern.
So of all the books that you've written, what book would you recommend for parents that are having that trouble of letting their child do things, that are afraid to let
Getting
them?
the kids out doing things. I have a book called Navigating Autism that I did with Deborah Moore. That would be a good book. Another book,
Navigating Autism.
Navigating Autism, and another book is called The Loving Push.
Okay.
And I've had a number of parents come up to me and tell me that that book helped them to let go.
Yes, that's an awesome book, by the way. It really is.
Because
I had to actually practice it for myself with my own son.
okay, well, I'm glad you like that book.
Yeah, I
But
did.
I'm seeing parents that can't let go. And you start out with baby steps, like, okay, you're pumping gas and have the kid run in the shop, you're right there, buy something.
Right. Now, if we're going to start to wrap this up, so I want to make sure if there's any last messages that you'd like to give to the world, please tell us.
Well, if it's you have a 3-year-old that's not talking, you got to do something about it right away. The worst
Okay.
thing you can do if you have a 3-year-old that's not talking is to do nothing. You got to get working with that child.
That's right. Don't just let it stagnate, right?
No,
Don't let
No,
it
you need to
stagnate.
get working with them. And the thing I have found is some teachers have the ability to work with these children. They know just how to engage. I call it the knack. You know, there's been a lot of controversy about different types of programs, but the thing that's important with 3-year-olds is,
Mhm.
does the teacher have the knack to engage this kid? And
Right.
what do I want a 3-year-old to learn? More speech, learning how to wait and take turns at games. That's really, really super important. And basic skills, dressing, washing their hands, brushing their hair, just basic skills. And the
Right.
child should like going to therapy.
Now, can you give me advice for teachers that are struggling, and the special needs teachers that are struggling with the parents, to get the parents to let go, or to get the
Well,
parents?
I'm not, I come out, you remember, I have 25 years in heavy construction, and I'm giving them the job trailer version without the swear words.
Oh,
Basically tell them that if you don't let go, your kid's going to end up in the basement. And I know that's not very nice,
oh
but
my,
that was similar to when the boss slammed the deodorant down with me. That was
right.
And actually, in the movie, they condensed stuff. They had the farmer ranchman guy do it. It actually was a construction person that did it.
Oh,
And
so
what
that,
they had to do was you know, they had to condense some things, but that scene basically happened.
wow.
And it wasn't done gently. He slammed it down. And they slammed it down exactly the way they did it in the movie. But they had to fit everything into a 2-hour movie, so they couldn't have that other construction boss in there, but it was a construction person who did it. And the thing is that yes, I was upset at the time, but now I thank them. And
Right.
it's okay to be eccentric, but you just can't be a rude, filthy, dirty slob. That's something that's just not okay.
I get it. I know.
And I tell them rather harshly, but also I do things like whip out the money, and you know, there was a perfect opportunity. The store was right there across the hall, and there used to be a newsstand. It's now a junk food store. And I said, go in there and buy something. It's $5 bill. And she went across and she bought a drink and she brought me back the change. It's the first time she'd shopped by herself, gone in and talked to the store staff.
Right. So she had a real moment where she was.
Well, I did that with a girl down in Argentina years ago, and I didn't even speak Spanish. And we were walking around, and I found out she never shopped, but I knew that she liked National Geographics. And we ended up in a used bookstore, and there was a National Geographic in there. And I pointed to it, and I pointed at her purse, and I said, "Bye," and I walked away.
Oh my goodness.
And I stood back like 100 feet, and I watched her buy it all by herself.
Oh, I bet she was so proud.
Yeah, but you know, we kind of, but I was right, you know, and there were other people around.
Right.
You know, I'm not, you know, at the airport, for example, I didn't send this girl to the other end of the airport.
Right.
The store was across the hall.
Right.
And we were sitting right there in the gate and could see it.
Right. No reason why not to try, right?
Well, that's right. And I just whipped out the $5 and I gave it to her before Mom could even say anything.
Oh my goodness. Well, Temple, I have to tell you, I have learned so much from you, and I love your stories. And I'm so excited that you were able to do this interview with me. And I just wanted to make sure to thank you so much for all that you do for those of us who would otherwise be still walking around in the dark.
Well, the other thing is, are a lot of your viewers dealing with younger kids now?
So some of the viewers I have are dealing with more the adults.
You see, the younger kids, the other big thing with younger kids, parents say he or she's really bad at taking turns. Well, as I was a very young kid, when I was 5, we played all kinds of board games where I had to learn how to wait and take turns.
That's right. That's important. So now for my audience that has adults on the spectrum that they're kind of struggling still, what kind of advice do you give?
Well, I have to know like fully verbal adults.
So these are adults that are verbal and they speak, but they're struggling and they're learning.
Struggling, you see, that's very vague.
Well, they're struggling in things like, a lot of the people that I know wouldn't be able to do math. They wouldn't be able to.
Well, this is the thing. I think there's some things on this math stuff. I think they need to change some of the requirements. I've had students come up to me that want to be a veterinary nurse, and they're on their 2nd and 3rd algebra class. And you don't need algebra to be a veterinary nurse. You don't need it to be a veterinarian. There's a little tiny bit of algebra on drug dosing, but that can just be just flat.
Well, the big one with the adults is the relationships.
Yep.
Big one with the adults is they want to have girlfriends, they want to have boyfriends, they want to get married, but they don't even know how to begin the relationship.
Well, I think a lot of the relationships that have worked have been friends who shared interests. Because when I was a teenager, the only place I was not bullied was riding horses, model rockets, and electronics. Friends through shared interests.
So
and where
friends through
marriages that have worked, it's like a couple of computer programmers get together. I remember one lady that I know, and then they went to candlelit dinner so they could have a really romantic conversation about computer data storage systems because they're just so interesting.
Oh, wow. And they had that in common.
They have that in common. You see, that's an example of a shared
interest. Right.
And so I think, get kids out doing lots of different things.
Right.
And for another one, mom said to me, well, my kid's loving school. He's in band and loves it. Okay, that would be a shared interest.
Now, Temple, we have
those sort of things.
We have an awful lot of people out here that really, really like you and respect you. So I want to know, when are we going to get you in California? When are you coming to California again?
Well, I have got to get it on the calendar,
visit
way in advance.
We have
one thing I'm doing is making myself available by Zoom, and so that's what
I know. But one day I'm going to get you back out here to California. Now, I would like you to say hi to someone that's very special. She is a woman that runs a program out here called Divine Path. Her name is Lanilla Batoli. And if you could do me a favor and say hi, Lanilla, I'd be really stoked. Because she made the time. She's a busy woman. She made the time to come on. And I have another lady named Nancy Hines Glazer, who's been unofficially mentoring me. So if you could say hi to my ladies.
Hi. Well, great. Hi.
Hey. And then there's my special very first fairy fan, Camille, who is asking you if you wanted to sell your books at Barnes and Noble.
Well, my books are at Barnes and Noble.
Right.
And Amazon and Barnes and Noble can order any book that.
Well, say hi to Camille because she's a sweetheart and she came on. And I've got my amazing Chef Rock is my producer, and Nick Danger, aka David Biber, has the studio that they
ask you, is Chef Rock actually a chef?
Yes, Chef Rock.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, he actually is. He was doing a show years and years ago. Him and his brother, bada bing, bada boom, amazing. Totally is producing for me and supporting. So Chef Rock's gonna say hi.
Okay.
Temple, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic. You're doing an incredible job. I have an autistic son who's 23 right now.
And how's he doing?
Fantastic. We worked with him at an early age, and some of the most amazing things have happened. At one point, within a 2-week span, he learned Japanese. Not only how to write it, but to read it and all the kanji. He learned how to play the piano in like 2 lessons.
Is he good at math by any chance?
Not that good at math. I'm sorry. He can't help you there, Temple.
Okay, well,
but he's an incredible artist.
He's an incredible artist. Well, So what's he doing now on the work front now?
As the work goes, because he's still in college, he works at Starbucks,
Okay, but he's holding a job and Starbucks
holding a
has some really
full-time
passionate-
job.
Because
Amazing.
Yay!
he's holding a job at Starbucks, and that's going to be really good training.
It sure is.
And
It
what do
sure
you think
is.
he might want to? What's he interested in?
He wants to be an animator.
Well, the thing that, as I told you before, art and mechanics go together.
Yes,
And I've seen some successes where young adults got addicted to video games. And the one thing that got them off the video games was car mechanics. And they found that car mechanics was more interesting than the video games. And they went on to get good jobs like fixing trains, working in a quick lube place, building classic cars.
Nice.
Really good careers. Art and mechanics, that sounds strange, but they go together.
well, I'd love when you come out here, we can take you around. There's a couple film schools that have young people with disabilities, training
Okay,
them
well,
how to be camera people and
Well, that's good. And
editors.
I've been around, talked to a lot of news crews, and I talked to camera people, they were dyslexic. That comes up quite often, terrible in math, because that photography skill, they just look in the camera and they see the right pictures.
Right.
I have
Well,
to I have to say, I am so excited. I'm almost speechless, which is very rare for me. But Temple, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please come to California. We have all these people that will just love to see you. And
Okay,
I just, I can't even tell you how pleased I am. So thank you, Temple, for being here. I'm going to give everybody one last chance. Anybody out there have one more question for amazing Temple?
okay, well, great. And wait a minute, there seems to be some chat on here. Let's see what's on that.
you got some chat.
Okay,
God bless you. Wow.
well, thank you
Temple,
for the nice
amazing.
chats.
Thank you.
And it's been
Thank
absolutely
you,
great
Temple.
talking to everybody.
Temple.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna
Thank you,
leave the meeting.
Temple.
Okay,
Okay, have a great night.
I will.
Thank you,
Bye.
ladies.
Thank
Okay,
you,
goodbye.
everybody. Mwah.
You.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.